Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And today we're back with more Spider-Man. So obviously I'm excited. Wolf isn't.
Ooh. No, I'm excited. I had fun with
I
this
know,
one.
but you're always doing this. That I'm saying that I'm excited, and you say no, I'm not. I hate. So
I
I was
sometimes
ready
get
this
excited.
time.
I sometimes
I
get excited.
I was ready for you to make that joke, and then you threw a curveball at me. So
Yeah.
well played, my friend. Well played. Well played. Anyway, this time we are going to talk about the new Spider-Man cartoon that's on Disney Plus, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Now, before we actually get to the show itself, just in case you're wondering, we did cover a lot of Spider-Man media at this point in time. We did all the film series. We talked about this Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse. But if you go way back, like God, that was 5 years ago. Holy hell! We covered the what was called the new animated series, which debuted on MTV in 2003, was only one season and has since became kind of a cult status. And I bring this up because, in a weird way, this is kind of another take on it because this is another Spider-Man show that's CG animated with a cell shaded look. Only I don't think it's just technology, but this one looks way better. I love the art style for this show.
It's also just a better show.
Okay, jumping the gun. Yes, it is a better show. But before we get there, so interestingly enough, this started out as Spider-Man freshman year, and it was supposed to be like the first year of Spider-Man in the MCU before Tony Stark recruited him in Captain America: Civil War. So
Mm.
I'm not sure what happened to change it into an alternate reality MCU, but I think it was the smarter call.
Well, we should mention this is based off of the comic book series, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, as well.
Not really. Like your friend, there is a Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man comic series, which
Oh.
yeah, I have a few issues of, but at the end of the day, this is an AU to the MCU Spider-Man. That's
Oh.
the main thing this show is trying to be. You can also kind of tell Spider-Man in this show. It's not Tom Holland, but you can tell the voice actor is trying to sound similar to it.
He does a pretty good job. It's Hudson Thames. I thought he
Yeah.
was a great voice actor for Spider-Man.
I think he fit Peter Parker greatly. He made some comments before this show came out, which make me go, oh, "Okay, he's one of those people." But to be honest, he is as far as his work on the show, he did fine. He did
Yeah,
great, even.
he was a great like I could definitely tell the difference between him and Tom Holland, but still, like I said, he was a great Spider-Man on this show.
But at the same time, it's like it's not a perfect copy. But if you're trying to get that vibe of the Tom Holland Spider-Man,
Hmm.
he did great with that.
Yeah,
So, so anyway, I wasn't really sure what to think about this show when it was in production because, like I said, it started out as it was supposed to be canonical, and then they changed into an AU. And of course, there was a lot of talk about it regarding how they made Norman Osborn black. And if you're going to, I might as well just get it out of the way now. If you're expecting us to tear into this show because it's quote unquote woke, leave now. We're not doing this.
yeah, we
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 are
don't
talking
care.
about we talk about this show as a show. We don't care about any political agendas that may or may not be there.
Yeah, Norman
Cool,
Osborn's black.
cool.
He's cool. That's fine. We don't care.
Like I care about
That
how
has no
he's
bearing
written,
on the
and
character,
yeah, like and to be honest, we live in a world where we have a black Spider-Man. So who the hell gives a shit anymore?
and that's also cool.
Yep. The point is, we don't give a shit about that,
Yeah,
about quote unquote woke. If a show is good, it's good. If a show sucks, it sucks. I don't need to look. You, as someone said, I don't remember who said it, but racism is easy. You don't need to get creative with it.
true.
So we are talking about this as a show. If you can't accept that, then close the podcast. What can I tell you? Anyway, so I guess we kind of said I really like this show.
Yeah, this was fun. I really enjoyed this. Personally, I don't know about you, but I'm really glad they did decide to make it just an AU thing because
Oh, I agree.
I
That's why I
am
brought this up.
I mean, true. Yeah, I am kind of like I am glad they did that because the MCU is just so big now, and it's like you have to watch so much shit if you want to keep up with everything now, from the shows to the movies. It's a lot, right?
If
And
anything, I get you, but I would say the problem with that would be is that it's trying to lead up to Civil War, so it will be
well,
before Civil War.
now it's trying
So
to. Well, true, that is true. This wouldn't be, you wouldn't
that
have to
was the
watch as
original
much.
plan. So I think it's not just that you need to watch a lot for the MCU, but it's also that you kind of know where the end point would be, so it doesn't give the writers a lot of freedom to do whatever they want.
Mm.
So I think with an AU they could flex a bit more. I suppose they could do more things that don't necessarily connect.
Well,
So I
that just
actually
it gives you as a viewer, right, something different because like you don't have to have seen all the movies leading up to Civil War and with Civil War and everything. And well,
yeah.
this also goes a bit past Civil War too, because they do mention in this show, or maybe they weren't going to in the original, but they did in this one. They mentioned like Ultron and the Avengers having to fight him and
They
everything.
mentioned, it's not really spoilers because the show be some of the stuff we knew before the show came out, but like the Sokovia Accords are being mentioned, like
Mm.
that's happening in the background. But it's like so there are ties to the MCU, but otherwise it's basically a standalone, all things considered.
Yeah, but again, right, like I'm okay with that, and I'm fine with that because I think that's better personally. Like it's the same idea as Marvel Zombies and some of the other like or the What If series somewhat.
Yeah,
You don't
this
have
is
to
the
have as
same.
much.
It is the same people behind What If, as far as
Yes.
I'm aware.
Yeah.
So,
It
which
just
for the
explores
record,
something different, which I think is great.
yeah. By the way, I'm not sure. Have you seen What If? I've seen an episode and wasn't quite into it, and I didn't
I've
see
seen a
anything
little
after.
bit, but yeah, I wasn't as into it. Marvel Zombies, I've not seen a whole bunch of. I've not seen any of it all really, but I've heard people talk about it, and they said it was really good, and that's why they're like doing a full thing for it, right?
Okay. Well, I know Marvel Zombies is also a big thing in the comics. I think there was a big comic series around that, so
Mm.
not surprised.
Yeah, so
So,
I've heard that show's really good, but I've not seen any of it. But what if you're right? I did see a little bit of it, and I was kind of like, on it. It's fine, but there's better Marvel
so
shows to go watch,
mhm.
like
That
this
being
one.
said, yeah. So with that being said, but comparing it to other Spider-Man shows that have been around this, what is your experience with other Spider-Man shows? Just to
Oh
know.
man, there's the one we covered, the MTV one, which was, eh.
Interesting.
Then I have seen. Oh, what was the original Spider-Man cartoon?
The
The
one from the
old,
90s.
I think is the one from the '90s. Yeah,
Yeah, because there was the one from the 90s, which is
which I
it's
never
I
saw.
think it's just called Spider-Man, but people have then referred to it as Spider-Man the animated series, which I
Mm.
grew up with. I haven't seen it in a long time, but obviously it has its fans, and rightfully so. I have a lot of fun memories of that show.
Yeah, that's definitely the one I've probably seen the most of, but it's been a long time. A
Then
long
have
time.
you seen Spectacular Spider-Man?
Let me Google real quick, see what that looks like.
So while you do that, I will say that Spectacular Spider-Man. I don't think any Spider-Man fan is going to disagree with me. Is the best Spider-Man show we ever got. And this is like my golden standard when it comes to Spider-Man shows. So when I say Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is great and I love what we have so far, I can't say yet if it's as good or better than Spectacular because this show is already renewed until season 3. So once it's all wrapped up, I'll get back to you. But for right now, it definitely feels like it's the best Spider-Man show since Spectacular. There's no question about that because the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon I wasn't really that into. Great animation, has some good episodes here and there. Wasn't a fan of the vibe it gave up and how it tried to make Spider-Man into Deadpool essentially. And the other Disney show that was around, it's just called Spider-Man. It was fine. It was there, I suppose. It was there.
To
So,
answer your question on Spectacular Spider-Man, the answer is I vaguely remember this, but I don't think I've seen any of it.
but we need to cover it then someday because it's a really good show.
Fair
But
enough.
So now with your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, I would say that so far, if I have to give it again, how to give a rank to a show that's not done yet, but thus far, I would probably say it's way up there in terms of Spider-Man shows to
Now,
me.
ignoring Spider-Man shows from
Mm,
the MCU, how would you rate it?
yeah.
How would you rate it?
Mhm. Oh, like in terms of do we count like WandaVision in here and everything,
Yeah, anything
or
from the MCU, how would you rate it?
anything? Well, to be honest, what have I seen from the MCU shows? Okay, okay. For like we
Fair.
obviously we saw WandaVision, we saw Falcon and the Winter Soldier because we covered those. We
We
did.
covered the first season of Loki. I don't know if you
I
watched
saw
season
season one
two.
of Loki. I've seen a few episodes of Miss Marvel, which I did enjoy a lot because I also like Miss Marvel in the comics. I just couldn't continue for one reason or another.
Hmm.
So if I need to count on that, then maybe it's the Spider-Man bias, but also know that this is my favorite one of the bunch.
That's fair. Right now, I think I would definitely place. Again, I've not seen any of the other animated stuff other than like an episode or two
Yeah.
of What If, and that
So
definitely doesn't rank very highly for me personally.
yeah.
Maybe it gets better if you watch a few more episodes. I don't know, but it definitely didn't do as much for me. But
So
I would say
it,
Loki, since I've seen both seasons of that, I think Loki for me is still better than this. But this is its first season, and for its first season, I enjoyed this a lot. I had a lot of fun.
yeah, so again, I haven't seen season two of Loki yet.
Mhm.
I'll need to get around to it,
You
but
should.
there's a lot to watch. Honestly, there's so
There
much
is.
stuff. So, but in terms of everything, I really enjoyed this show. I think it does Spider-Man well. Now, there are some things that are being built up, and I could only tell you if they're done well or not when they get to those plot points in the future. But for what this season gave me, I can I can only recommend this show. I think it's a
Hmm.
great show and it was just fun. It felt like reading the old comic issues of Spider-Man again, you know?
Mm.
It has that it kind of got it. There are some things that it misses here and there, but I also know that it has some trappings it needed to work with, but we'll get more to this where when we start covering spoilers because this is a pretty recent show. The last episodes only aired a few days ago, so obviously there's going to be a spoiler tag. But our recommendation is that you'll go check it out. If you're a Spider-Man fan, there's a very good chance you'll enjoy this.
Yeah.
So shall we just jump into it? So
Yeah.
spoilers for your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man in three, two, one. Still here? Okay. So let's actually start. I'm not necessarily saying doing it episode by episode, but let's start at the beginning for a second. One
Hmm.
change, because the one change I am kind of not sure how to feel about. I kind of like it because it's different, but I am also aware that it kind of goes against the idea. Is that in this, Uncle Ben dies before Peter gets bitten by the spider. And I understand that, you need to make changes. Also, because, Spider-Man has been around for 70 years by this point. So obviously you need to make changes every so often. So if there's one version where he gets bit after Uncle Ben died, I'm like, whatever. But I also know that isn't it like kind of the point that he gets bitten, it kind of goes to his head, and because he fucked up and Uncle Ben died, that's how he learns about responsibility.
I mean,
That's
the movies did something similar to this, and that was perfectly fine.
yeah, but in the movies, by the movies you probably mean the MCU, right?
Yes, I'm
But
talking about the MCU.
in the MCU though, it was kind of it. We did know by the way he talks in Civil War that something did happen because there's a point where he says to Tony Stark, "When you can do the stuff that I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen, then you help that happen." So that's one way to get across that he messed up because he could have stopped something, but he didn't. They
Fair
don't
enough.
tell you Uncle Ben directly, and then later on they try to pull it again, but with Aunt May, which say what
Hmm.
you will about that. but you could tell that there was something. There's a reason he did what he did. Here,
Mm.
here, here, Ben is already dead by the time he gets bitten by the spider. So again, this is not really that big of a deal at the end of the day to me, because at the
Yeah,
end of the day, it's still Spider-Man, and I feel like they are doing something interesting with the idea of great power comes great responsibility. We're gonna talk about that later, obviously.
yeah.
And it's just one of those things that, like, after I finished the show, I was kind of like, wait a minute.
Well,
Then,
I will add, right?
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. At the end of the day, Spider-Man is very much sits in a similar category to Batman. These are the two most well-known superheroes, bar none. End of discussion.
Sure.
I would
And
argue.
Superman, but yeah.
Well,
Mm.
Superman is probably up there, but I would say in terms of films and shows, I would argue Spider-Man and Batman have had the most. My
Yeah,
opinion, I could
these
be
are
wrong,
the
but I would
ones.
argue they've had the most.
These are the ones I would say that Batman has Spider-Man beaten by that. The only thing he does, him. But let's we all there's always this joke that, oh, there's a new Batman movie, can there's a new Batman cinematic thing, can't wait to see the Waynes die again, or there's a new Spider-Man thing,
Can't wait
can't
to
wait
see
to
Uncle
see
Ben
Uncle
die
Ben
again.
die. Yeah, so I get you. These are the
So
ones
yeah,
that
like
people.
we don't need to see it every single time, especially not anymore. I would say I think it's perfectly fine if we don't see it. But
Mhm.
I do get you if you're going to do like a Spider-Man origin story, like it makes sense to do it. But I'm at this point, I'm perfectly fine if they don't, personally.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I think it's not necessarily that if they do it or not. I don't say that we need to open with the Uncle Ben murder.
Hmm.
What I'm saying is that him getting beaten after is the point that I'm kind of okay. That's definitely a change. I am not sure what to think about it yet, especially because I have a theory about what's going on with Uncle Ben, but we'll get into it later.
Okay.
But anyway, so Peter starts his in high school, and the first thing that happens to him in high school is that we see Doctor Strange fighting a symbiote, and it's like, I remember when I thought, it's like, okay, this is definitely a way to start. I didn't expect symbiotes in the very first episode.
Or Doctor
Not,
Strange.
yeah, it's like, okay, well, they're firing on all the cylinders here. Okay, and you know what? Something that's actually kind of funny. I was thinking that in the way the spider fell through a Doctor Strange portal, and I'm like, oh, wait. So is Miguel going to go after this one, after this Peter as well? Because he's technically an anomaly, like Miles in Across the Spider Verse. And then like the last episode, it was like they kind of have a stable time loop with it. I'm like, oh, okay, never mind.
Still technically an anomaly, I suppose.
I guess
Technically.
it's I guess you can say it's a canon anomaly.
It's a
Let's go with
canon
that.
event.
Okay, because you
Oh.
see, so and there was a point actually when I was thinking, because in Across the Spider Verse there's this MCU reference where Doctor Strange goes, and don't get me started on Doctor Strange and the nerd from Earth and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, maybe he was talking about that, but then in the last episode they actually tied it in really cleverly. So well played, show. Well played. But anyway, now this is probably the point where you're asking me. All of the people in the that were introduced, like from Nico to Pearl, to all of those are comic characters, but they are very obscure.
Yeah, these are definitely not like your typical Peter Parker allies that you generally get to see, but I'm okay with that. Again, I don't
I'm
need to
okay
see
with that.
Mary Jane or Gwen all the time, right? Like it's
Apparently,
interesting and fun to
I've
like
heard
throw
that
some
Gwen
different
is
ones in them.
apparently confirmed. Yeah, I'll just interject and say that I think I heard that Gwen is compared to is confirmed for season 2,
And
but
that's
we'll get
fine.
to
Like
that.
I'm fine if you introduce them. It's just it's interesting. It's more interesting, I think, to see other characters get more of the spotlight from the Spider-Man universe, right? Because like
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Uh,
characters in Spider-Man.
Definitely agreed. And I do like that, because we still get Harry at some point, like Harry
Hmm.
Osborn. We still
I mean,
get
you got to
him.
have the Osborns, I suppose.
Yeah,
But
especially, and we'll get to how later. But Yeah, but in terms of, I didn't really mind. I don't really know Nico from the comics. I know that at some point she's like another entity, like she's like a
I
witch or
believe she's like,
something. I don't know.
yeah, like she has her own like magical powers at some point. I believe is what I was
Yeah,
looking
the
up
the stuff
anyway.
they tease at the end, I know that she has like an alter ego in the comics, but I don't know much about her or how much she connects to Spider-Man. Again, I might be a big Spider-Man fan, but don't expect me to follow up on all of this stuff. Like, come on, you see how many comics are there? I don't at me. And Pearl, again, I don't know how much, but she's fine. She's there. Now, the stuff that I was interested about is that I had no idea what they were gonna do with Lonnie at the start. I was like,
Oh
okay,
yeah,
interesting.
I
Well,
so I don't know as much about Spider-Man. So when I heard Tombstone, I was like, oh shit, okay, this is interesting. I kind of like this. Like this is a very different, from what I understand, Tombstone.
yeah, so I'll tell you this. Tombstone is one of those villains, at least from my experience with the Spider-Man media, that's just kind of there. Like we've definitely seen him you saw him in Into the Spider-Verse. He's one of Kingpin's men,
Yeah,
right?
and he's also
He's one
in the
of them.
most recent game as well. Like you get to,
He's also in the Insomnia games. Yeah, and I think he's not a main thing. If anything, I think in the first one he's a side quest. In the
yeah,
second one, he's more permanent in the story.
yeah,
But yeah, he's done there. Now, what's interesting about him, the way I was gonna introduce to him, is that he's sort of one of the big villains in Spectacular Spider-Man, and the reason they did that is because they couldn't do Kingpin anymore because they didn't have the rights to Kingpin, who
mm,
became more of a Daredevil thing at that time.
mm,
So in Spectacular
interesting.
Spider-Man, they essentially made him Kingpin. So to me, Tombstone was always like this: we need Kingpin, but we also don't. So that's kind of like how I always seen him. Not to say that he doesn't have some good interpretations, like we mentioned the game, but that's always what he was to me. So suddenly to see Lonnie as a schoolmate for Peter and that they actually get along, like if anything, they are kind of doing the two-face thing with him. That he starts out as a friend of the hero to some degree, and then the show obviously ends with him starting to you can see a bit of a hints that his skin is starting to change and everything.
Mhm.
So, but I really liked what they did with him. This is probably
Yeah,
in my opinion, my favorite Tombstone adaptation so far.
yeah. Like it'll definitely depend on what we see out of him later and how that goes, and what they do with it. But I really enjoyed Lonnie so far. He was definitely like one of my favorite characters from this season so far, I think.
Yeah, because again, you think they're gonna start them out because as soon as they said Lonnie, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. We're gonna do, but no, he gets along with Peter. Him and Pearl are actually doing good. Are actually a good couple by the looks of it. And then you see his home life, and that he essentially just joined this gang because he wanted to save his brother, and when you see how much it affects his personal life, that he can't see his girlfriend anymore, he can't do anything at school anymore, he loses everything he worked so hard for because he basically threw his life away. And it's like, I feel bad for this kid. I don't want him to go to become evil, but it's like, damn.
But then you also see, right, like they feel like he eventually starts to see like this gang and everything as a family as well, and that togetherness and everything, and
Yeah.
how they
Especially
do
because
protect,
there is the
the area they control and everything, and how they keep the people there safe in their own way. It's
Mhm.
interesting. I like that,
Yeah.
to put it simply, right? Because it's a fun way to explore this character and you know e- explore the idea of doing the wrong things for supposedly the right reasons, or getting lost in all of that, right? And the morality of that. I like that because again, there's a lot they can explore with Lonnie and take that character further. And does he ever, does he go too far and end up becoming the thing that he didn't want to become at some point, or is he able to pull back and say, "Whoa, I've gone too far. I shouldn't be doing this." Right?
Because so far there are definitely hints towards his descent because obviously it's gonna happen. It's Tombstone, but I also like that for the first thing he does after he gets his powers is that he actually helps Spider-Man out.
Mm.
And if anything, he's also giving Spider-Man a lesson because he's at a point where Peter is literally about to kill Scorpion, and he tells him, "No, don't do this." So I'm interested to see how these two are gonna play out because also Peter knows that Lonnie is Tombstone. Lonnie doesn't know that Peter is Spider-Man. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with that.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
hmm I'm interested in that. That was a really cool thing.
And if Lonnie will
In
find out and how that'll play into stuff too.
hmm Again, the everything that's been done with Lonnie and Tombstone in this show, that was just top notch. I really liked it.
Yeah,
Now, when it comes to the other stuff, honestly, Aunt May was kind of nothing in this series. The more I'm thinking
she's
about
definitely not
it,
an important character so far. Maybe that'll change later on,
they do
especially
build
based
up
off
that
the
they're good.
ending.
That yeah, in the ending, it builds up that maybe there's going to be something with her, but we'll get to that because that's more when it comes to the future of the show. But as is, Aunt May is there. She's fine. She's not the best Aunt May ever. She's also not. Yeah,
I do hope we don't do another Aunt May is Uncle Ben thing again. MCU.
I I doubt it.
I don't think they will, but I feel like that needs to be said. You've done it once, MCU. It was fine. It worked, especially for the movie you put it in. But let's not do it again, MCU. You've done it once. Don't do it twice. But that's just
Yeah,
my little take on that.
I we shall see.
We shall
So,
see.
but I will say though, in terms of the stuff that's different here, I like what they also did with Harry in this show because for the most part, Harry is always like the one guy who always hates Spider-Man for one reason or another in most well-known versions, I suppose.
That could
He's a
still
he's
happen here.
like but it's like he's a good friend for Peter, but he doesn't like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. So suddenly here we get this introduction that Peter doesn't know him from beforehand. He just saves him as Spider-Man, and Harry thinks he's really cool. And then Peter starts walking for Norman without even knowing that there's a connection. And I did kind of think that the way Harry found out that Peter is Spider-Man was kind of dumb, to be honest. It felt
I
like
mean, the
kind of
way Norman
nothing.
found out Peter was Spider Man was also kind of dumb, but
But there's more sophistication to it, I
I mean,
suppose, instead of
yeah, but it's still like,
yeah,
I guess, you have to like keep in mind this is a Peter Parker who's still like new to the spider stuff, so he may not
yeah,
have
and also
all the
like he's a
powers yet. He's still learning everything, but I still find it absolutely hilarious that he's like, I'm in a secure building that has security and everything. I'm gonna run into like, the stairwell and change into Spider-Man costume.
which, to be honest, it's still like you said, he's still young. He's still getting figuring it out.
I
It's
just
not
thought it
like
was
there's
funny though.
it's kind of funny, but it's also like,
Like, man, would
to
you
be
have
honest,
smacked me?
a kid wouldn't think about this stuff, right?
Fair,
He
fair,
didn't. He,
fair.
uh,
I get again. It's supposed to be like young Peter Parker who's still getting used to all the powers and everything, and maybe hasn't figured everything out. It's completely fair. I just thought it was funny though that he gets caught by a camera. The one thing that you feel like Spider-Man wouldn't get caught by, because that's
well, to
kind of
be
like his
honest,
big thing is not getting caught by cameras unless he wants to.
yeah, and again, you could make the he's only 15, and I'm sure, and to be honest, when he was 15 in the comic books, there was no technology like that. But to be honest, I could buy it a bit more instead of him just waltzing into the office and it's like, hey, Osborn, I'm just gonna take my mask off here, and it's like, oh, your son is this kid I saved. Cool.
I just love what
So,
Osborn just like, no, no, stop, please. Oh,
y- y- yeah.
again, it was
So,
funny.
I also like how Harry just immediately becomes obsessed with the idea that he's going to be like the community, like the. I like it's stupid, but I kind of like that dude at the desk wink at like a guy in the chair, dude at the desk. I
Mm.
I I thought I thought it was stupid, but it was
Oh, it's
funny.
dumb, but
I
it's funny.
yeah. And and again, I like the idea of having like Harry and Peter that walk together on a Spider-Man stuff
Yeah.
instead of Peter having to hide it all the time. I, again, it's a change, but I enjoy it. There are so many different versions of Spider-Man. Why not have one where Harry actually helps them out and everything? That
I
works.
we should also mention as well, right? I don't know if you noticed it, but I was curious, so I paused it. I know Screwball is a villain in Spider-Man comics and everything, if I'm not mistaken. So she's not like new, but you did see the
Uh,
Screwball reference, right?
Actually, I didn't.
When
May-
Peter saves
Maybe I
Harry,
did. I just don't remember.
those guys are streaming, and you can see the comments scrolling by. There's one
Oh,
commenter that has the
right,
name Screwball.
right. Yeah, right, right. Here's the thing. After the PS4 game, I have just deleted anything related to that bitch from my mind. I hate her. So,
Fair, fair,
and I don't think there's anyone on the face of the earth that's going to blame me for it.
fair, fair.
And if you do blame me for it, I'll fucking photobomb you. But that's another story. So,
I thought it was funny though. I just like have it because I was curious
yeah.
and I was like, well, I'm gonna read these. Might as well because they probably put something in it, knowing
Oh
Marvel and
yeah,
everything. And they
that's
did.
actually
There's a little
something.
screwball
I
reference.
need to do. I need to do this myself for this show. But whenever there's like a live chat thing in anything, you better pause and read those things because there's probably some gold stuff in there.
Mostly just
Most
what you would
likely.
expect, but I happened to notice the screwball. I was like, oh, that's funny. I see what you did there. I wonder if
Yeah.
they'll show her later because of that or not. We'll see, but
Well, only time
you'll
will
love
tell,
it
I suppose.
apparently.
You know something. Before we carry on, I just want to say that that we get the villain Speed Demon in the third episode of this.
Hmm.
Okay, and Speed Demon, obviously, he's a speedster, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
He's voiced by Roger Craig Smith.
Hmm.
You don't know who that is, huh?
I mean, I know the name.
Current English voice actor for Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, I see.
They fucking knew. There's no way that they didn't know this. But though, to be
He's on
honest, Roger Craig
Outcast.
Smith is like apparently four characters in this show. So at some point they're like, "Hey, listen, we need a speedster. Can you fill it in for a second?" And now I have a show where Spider-Man fights Sonic. You know what? I'll take it. I'm very happy.
Yeah, he voices the coach. He
Mhm.
voices Speed Demon, and he voices the Oscorp
The
security
chameleon.
guard and Chameleon as well.
Yeah, and it's funny that in like three of those, it's like as soon as he talked, I'm like, oh, that's Roger Craig Smith. That's how much of a Sonic maniac I am. I just hear the voice actor in something else, and it's like, I know who that is. Well, besides, but anyway, that was kind of cool for me though. And Roger Craig Smith is a great voice actor, and with outside of that, so
I
I'm
mean,
just happy to
they got
see
a
him
lot
here.
of like good actors and actresses in this show. We should say, you know,
Yeah,
they have Charlie Cox in this show.
yeah, reprising his role as Daredevil,
I
which
love
I'm
that he is just Daredevil. I just love
yeah.
that. Like he's just
I
Daredevil
tell you
now.
better. I knew Charlie Cox even before this
Oh
from
yeah.
Boardwalk Empire.
Yep.
He was like his character there. I was gonna iffy on for a reason, but I thought he was a great actor. And when they said he's gonna be Daredevil now, and I'm like, oh shit, that's such good casting. And I'm just love that years after, like he's been playing this role for like over 10 years now, didn't isn't it? I think.
For a lot, I think Daredevil, the Netflix show came out in
That was
that was
2015.
2015. So
Yeah, so he's been
almost 10
playing this
years.
character for
Or
yeah,
yeah,
so he's playing
yeah,
this
10 years.
character for like for 10 years straight in terms of the voice acting in terms of the live action
Acting.
stuff
Yeah.
obviously. he was in the Netflix Marvel universe, and now he's actually in the MCU as well. Like this guy is Daredevil by this point, and to be honest, I'm happy to see him come back every time they need him.
Should,
Is
excuse me. Should note, by the way, I,
Mhm.
I was curious. I just looked at his wiki page. I
Yeah.
did not know this, but he's going to be in his first, as far as I'm aware, first video game this year.
Oh, what's that one?
Player Obscure Expedition 33, the one they announced, like I believe at
Hmm.
the Game Awards last year, I think, or
I
maybe
I don't I
the
don't remember
Summer
the
Games
game,
Fest.
but I'm gonna take your word for it. That's interesting.
Yeah, apparently this is the first game he'll be voice acting in.
Hmm. Well, go him. Also, I should note actually, this is a we were kind of making fun of it before we started recording, but if I if I had a nickel for every time there was a CG animated Spider-Man cartoon that has a cel shaded look and had a live action Daredevil actor reprise his role as a voice actor in that show, I would have two nickels. What are the odds about this? That
You'd
in the
have
new
two.
animated series you had the guy who played the Kingpin in the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie reprise his role as Kingpin in that show, and now in here you get Charlie Cox as Daredevil himself. It's like, what is going on with the consistencies here? Is this like the unofficial is this a spiritual sequel to the new animated series?
Maybe
Conspiracies with conspiracy, let's go.
an unofficial sequel to the MTV show that was definitely not that great.
It had moments, it had
It was
potential, but it
okay.
wasn't.
That is the best I will give it.
It was odd. It was very odd.
It was
But
different.
yeah, well, anyway, we're not talking about that. Back to this. So, I think so. We were talking about Harry before we tangented into all of this. So
True.
I enjoy Harry here, and I think might as well talk about Norman. I think this is a really good version of Norman. I enjoyed that.
Coleman
I enjoyed the
Domingo is the
idea
voice
that
actor for him. He does so good. I love the voice he's given Norman. It's so good.
yeah,
Just
he does because
I can just hear sorry. I can just
so,
hear the Spider-Man later. It's gonna be so
mhm.
good from him.
Yeah, also they keep dressing him up in green. I wonder why. And
I,
we do
I
actually see that he's tasking the professors there to start, building up a glider.
yeah,
The,
do see the glider briefly. So like they do
Mhm.
technically already have it built a little bit. So that'll be interesting. I was kind of hoping I will admit when we saw like Norman learn about who Peter Parker is and that he is Spider-Man and everything, and he kind of becomes for a brief bit like Harry's mentor in a way. He takes the role of
Peter,
Iron
I think
Man
you meant
here. Say say again.
you said Harry's mentor. I
So,
think you
sorry,
meant Peter.
Peter. Yeah, he becomes the role of Peter's mentor and everything here. For Spider-Man and everything. And
Mhm.
I was kind of hoping it's like, oh, maybe they won't do a Green Goblin thing this time around. Like, I get it. Green
I
Goblin is
think,
Spider-Man's villain. You can't have Spider-Man without Green Goblin, just like you can't have Batman without Joker, right? But I was kind of
but
hoping for
I think.
something really different personally. But I still like what they're doing with Norman Osborn here and him knowing and like,
Mhm. I think though they are playing nicely with it because I think they're doing what the Insomnia games are trying to do, which is build him up to be the Green Goblin. Because
mm,
even outside of the mask, Norman Osborn is a dick. That's like a Spider-Man stable.
I mean,
Norman
true.
Osborn is a dick.
It is
If
his
you know,
nature.
Mhm. And so I do enjoy that he starts out because he's a businessman. Why does he approach Peter? Because of the technology he's capable of. And when he invites Peter to Oscorp and he finds that out, he doesn't necessarily do anything in order to like, obviously he's kind of taking advantage of Peter to some degree, right? But you can also tell that he's just grateful that Peter saved Harry earlier in the show. So you're not entirely sure what his motivations are. Does he take advantage of this kid who has power and he can like be on par with the Avengers to some degree? Now he has a superhero to put out there when the world has all of these other superheroes. We don't know. Is he actually just grateful for Peter saving Harry? Probably, but maybe there's more to it than that. And I like that he's a mentor, but you can also see that some of the stuff he tells this kid are really misguided. And that's what I was hinting at earlier
Mm-hmm.
when he tells Peter, "With great power,
Comes.
there must also come great respect."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when he says that, I'm like, that's a strong word because obviously when anyone starts hearing with great power, they immediately fill it in for comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
So not only did they change it like that, but responsibility and respect start the same way, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so brilliant.
And
And
it also just makes sense coming from Norman, right? The man who
exactly.
absolutely does 100% desires respect over anything else, whether you love him or hate him. He does not give a shit. You will respect
Yeah,
them, right?
there is the scene in one of the final episodes where he goes to visit Otto in prison, and all he does is just gloat about how he found Otto and put him behind bars. And even Otto kind of calls him out on it that, oh, so you came here to pat yourself on the back when others did the job for you.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't even have to do anything. You just sent people to do it for you. And you can tell that Norman is taken aback by that. He came here to show that he won, but then he told them, "You actually didn't. People stole the trophy for you," and it gets to him.
Oh yeah, you can definitely see there's that brief moment of like that he just cannot stand that Otto
Mhm.
calls him out on that, right? Like he can't stand
Yeah,
it. He very quickly covers it up, and I love how they did that in the animation. But you can definitely tell
yeah,
there's that hint of ooh, that hit a
yeah.
nerve.
Mhm. And I think it's also interesting because obviously in the actual MCU, that's Tony Stark taking the role of Peter's mentor. And by the time Tony approaches Peter, Tony has already been through all of it, right? From the Iron Man movies and the Avengers movies, he's he's been through it all as a superhero. He knows exactly. He made his mistakes. He knows exactly the problems that superheroes can cause, and that's why that's actually one of the things in Civil War that he why does he want to sign the to why he's in support of the Sokovia Accords because he knows that they need to be monitored. He doesn't trust himself or any other hero to make the good choices all the
Or we
time.
should say he thinks
Um,
it's the right choice. It may
yeah,
not necessarily be the right choice. There's a lot of argument you can have back and forth on, is
yeah.
is Cap
What I
right or
mean,
is Tony right? But yeah, no, I get you.
I'm
Yeah,
saying from his point of view
yeah, from his point of
that
view.
regardless of which, if you agree with it or not, that's a whole other debate. We're not talking about Civil War right now.
No, fair, fair.
So, but what I like though is that, and you can see in Homecoming that he's trying to teach Peter, like, hey, don't just throw yourself into danger. Being a hero doesn't just mean that you just go out and put people at risk and everything. There's one of my favorite scenes in that movie is actually when Peter tells them, if you'd care, you'd actually be here. And then Tony steps out of the armor and tells them, who do you think called the FBI when you told me about this? And so it's like you can see that in Homecoming, Peter was the flawed one and Tony was the one that's a bit more wise about things. Here it's kind of the episode that Peter is naive and he thinks he knows what's best, but Norman is trying to kind of play it up to him that no, you need to do better. Like when Peter almost dies fighting Scorpion, and then he tells him, I need Spider-Man to be at his best. If you can't do that, we're done. If you compare that to Tony taking Peter's suit away because he's not responsible with it, here it's like you're too responsible. I don't need that. Goodbye.
Hmm.
That's such pun not intended, I swear, a stark contrast, but it's interesting. It's really I enjoy that because it also feels it fits with what Spider-Man fans know about Norman Osborn and
Well, it
what people
also,
expect from
yeah, it also kind of plays into that aspect of we don't often get to see like you don't often realize just how strong like Spider-Man actually is, right?
him.
And I
Yeah.
love that shows are starting to like this show especially pays a bit more attention to that he does pull his punches a lot because of his
Yeah.
strength. Like he could absolutely probably kill quite a few of his villains very easily. but he
There
doesn't.
are small moments in the MCU where they hint at how strong he is. Like, the dude freaking blocked Bucky's arm.
Mm,
That's a massive strength thing right there when you think about it.
true.
And also No Way Home at the final fight where ironically when he's trying to kill Norman, yeah, no, you can tell how strong he is. But in this one, yeah, the point with Scorpion where he's always trying to hold back because he knows that if he doesn't, he can easily break someone's jaw.
Hmm.
That's not even a competition. He's really strong.
Yeah.
And and I like the idea that yeah, maybe sometimes he doesn't need to pull his punches, but and him trying to figure out when is enough.
Hmm.
When is it enough? When do you need to stop? What's going too far? And especially with this version that's still a teenager that he didn't learn that, i I think I thought it was a really interesting plot point.
And, since you brought it up, and we're kind of going through a little bit here or there, uh,
Mhm.
Peter getting very injured and almost killed by, excuse
Scorpion.
me, a scorpion, uh, is the moment also we learn that, yeah, Osborn is trying to take advantage of Harry because they do take his blood, and we learn in a later episode that they're
Do
using
you
that
keep
for
calling him
experiments.
Harry? It's not Harry as Spider-Man, dude.
I listen, you know what I meant.
I know. I'm just pointing it out.
I'm just gonna do it now for spite.
Okay.
Do I mean it? Is it an accident? You'll never know now.
Yeah, fair enough. Uh, okay, so yeah, but you wanted to say?
So Harry as Spider-Man. No, we do find out that Norman does take Spider-Man's blood and everything, and is actually using it for experiments and experimenting on, and they're the ones we learn later on as well who make the spider that ends up biting Peter, which
Yeah.
is true to Osborn and everything with the stuff as well. Always that's the case, but
Yeah, and I'm also kind of a fan of like someone accidentally created himself in the past kind of thing. There's a trope apparently that's going on.
mhm,
Ninja Turtles 2012 kind of did that. Crash
yeah,
Bandicoot 4 did that. I kind of like that. I
yeah,
don't know. It's just me probably.
no fair.
So.
It's a fun trope, and it's done fairly well here with Strange and the Time Stone and everything. And
Mhm.
we've not mentioned it, right? But like, I do kind of love when we get to see where yes, it's a Spider-Man show, but there are all these other heroes in New York. Like, you have so many different like mutants and heroes and everyone else in just New York alone, right? Like, you have the Avengers
Mhm.
Tower there. You have, I believe,
But it's also not that intrusive. Like,
no,
yeah,
like you
you'd
have
see
Strange at the
Daredevil.
start, but yeah, like he's
Yeah.
not a big feature. I love when they do stuff like that. Or you have Daredevil here, who's also like doing some stuff in the shadows and doing his thing
Mhm.
with
And also, Iron Man shows up for a bit, but it's like that's all it is. It's a bit.
yeah. And I don't know if they'll do anything with, like, say, Luke Cage or Iron Fist or Punisher even, but it might be
I'm not
fun and
sure.
interesting. I don't know if they will, but I love that idea of just like, hey, here's this brief bit of this other hero or character who from the MCU who does tend to be around in New York doing things because
Yeah.
that's the stomping
They
ground.
do. There is like this tease that I think one of Norman's walkers is actually Elektra. I think that's Elektra anyway. She's with Daredevil at the end. So no,
That's
no, no. It's finesse.
Finesse
It's
is her
finesse.
name, yeah.
Finesse. My bad. My bad.
You're fine.
Sorry.
Listen,
Sorry. I am
I've
not that
called
familiar
Peter
with it.
Parker Harry many times
Yeah.
already, so you're allowed one at least.
Okay. So yeah. My bad
Actually,
here.
no, you're the
Sorry.
Spider-Man fan. You're done. It's over.
Well, that's the thing. I'm a Spider-Man fan. I don't really know much about the Daredevil lore,
Yeah, but
so
like you're the comic book fan, so it's done. It's over. You're
uh,
you're you're
a comic
finished.
book fan. I don't.
You're
Okay,
finished, AC. It's over for you. You
you're
called Electra.
okay.
You called
I
Finesse
get.
Electra. It's
Okay,
over
my
for you.
bad. My bad. I am done. Okay, I'll go hide behind my Jessica Jones comic.
That's another one that we could potentially see here that I'd be okay
Yeah,
with. That'd be
I
fun.
love Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones is great, but
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, back to this. So yeah, so we have Finesse working as for Norman as a double agent kind of thing.
Hmm.
That will be interesting to see.
Yeah.
And I like that we get to see some because it gives this feeling that there's more of a world. Actually, one of Peter's uh, classmates, I guess, in the Oscorp what's it called? In the Oscorp internship,
Yeah.
she's from Wakanda
Yeah.
already. I'm not
Referencing that and
sure if she
everything.
has a thing. I'm not sure if it's a character that we need to know. But she's there.
As far as I'm aware, like from quick Googling, I don't think Asha's like
Let's
anything other
see.
than in the show.
Yeah, she's a citizen of Wakanda. That's all I see.
I figure though she's a citizen of Wakanda. That's gonna come up. I figure it may not, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did, right? Because like that's a person from Wakanda, so and
Yeah.
Wakanda's a pretty like big thing, right?
Like they won't say that she's from Wakanda just for the hell of it. Is the point?
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah, so I figured they'll probably do something with that because again, like a Wakandan, like people from Wakanda, like being a scientist and everything from there and leaving there and like working for Oscorp is, or at least previously working for Oscorp, is a pretty
Hmm.
big thing, I would say.
Yeah, that's a thing that I don't think they put her there for nothing.
Yeah.
They probably have some plans for her, even or maybe the plan is that she helps build this space thingy, which brings the symbiote in, and a piece of it is left on Earth. So we're obviously going to see Venom somehow.
Hmm.
We don't know how yet, but I have a theory that kind of connects to something else I want to talk about in this show. I love how we see Spider-Man's costume evolve throughout this.
Oh yeah.
That he start
We.
that he starts that we start he starts out with this thing that you can tell is not super advanced at all. Like if anything, you can probably see that this is the costume he has in the thumbnail that we're using. So this is definitely some kid made it at home. I like how the web shooters he actually has like gas containers on his back. Like
Mhm.
it looks kind of wonky and everything, and it's like this is perfect. This is how a kid would make a costume
Yeah,
without
absolutely, and
any
that's
budget.
what makes it great, right? Like
Mhm.
this is Peter Parker in high school, just whatever he can find, whatever works. That it
Mhm.
kind of hints back to that, like, hey, this is like what you know of Peter Parker. He's like whenever he creates things, he's very much does this like let me grab this quick thing off to the side right here. Does this work? Yeah, all right, let's run with that. It works. Whatever, it
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
I think it is. I think it is supposed to resemble a bit like the homemade suit he has in Homecoming
Hmm.
and the start of Civil War, but but a bit more iconic with like how the eyes are and everything.
Hmm.
So, but I like how, and also you can see that the web shooters are actually huge because he doesn't know how to compact that yet. So that's great.
Well,
And
it's
so,
also he doesn't have the tech either, right? Like he's just working
mhm,
with whatever he can grab off the side of the street and stuff like that, right? Whatever he can scrap together.
yeah. And then when he starts walking with Norman, they have all of these other costume. I kind of like the costume montage. That was pretty funny.
Oh, it's fun,
Also,
yeah.
no capes still. Take that off. Disrespectful. Spider-Man doesn't wear a cape.
It
Now
was
we know
funny
why.
to see though and everything.
Yeah, and then they do settle for this black and white suit, which I think is a thing.
That's a thing,
I
right?
know it's from the games.
Because
I know
well,
he has a suit like that's in the games.
briefly looking it
In
up,
the
it's in Spectacular Spider-Man too. That white suit.
well, in the Spectacular Spider-Man comics, not necessarily the cartoon I was
Oh,
talking
not in
about,
the
but
cartoon.
yeah.
Okay,
So keep in mind that just because the show is named after a particular comic
I just
run
looked up
doesn't
images
necessarily
so I
mean
could
that
get like an idea of what that design
Mhm.
was to see if I could remember anything from the show. And I just happened to
Yeah,
see like there was an image with
but
him in the
this
red
suit
suit and him in the white suit. So,
Mhm. Yeah, but him and the white suit, I like. It's a suit though that they do have it in the games, in the
mhm.
Insomnia games. Okay, and I dug that suit. I swung around in it for a bit in the game, so I'm glad to see it here. And I also enjoy that the classic Spider-Man suit is the design he always had in his mind, and then at the end. he and Harry get to actually make it. And when they reveal it at the final two episodes, when you first see it, like you first see the hand, then the leg, then the back,
They did so
and
good
then
with
when you
that.
actually see him, like they treat it with the respect it deserves. Like because this suit, this design is so freaking iconic.
Mm.
So good.
Agreed. It's a really good reveal. They do a few things like that, right? Especially with the music mixed in with it as well, and the way they reveal it and the music they use. All very enjoyable, very fun, very
Yep.
good.
And also, a fun note in the opening, that depending on the episode, they actually change the opening animation a bit,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what suit he has in the episode.
Yep.
So that's also cool. And I also like that every title card looks like a comic cover in the way it's designed, and some of them even reference actual Spider-Man comic covers.
Oh, interesting.
That's just
That's
so
just
cool.
yeah, it's a fun little nod and
Also, can
dedication.
we talk about the theme song? The theme
The
song
theme
is
song of this is so
really
good. It's so like, man, this is probably just a side like thing, but I miss
awesome.
good show theme songs. It's been so long since we've had like a theme song. It feels like it's been a
Yeah,
while since we've had good show theme songs, man.
yeah, but I also like that that there is hints at like the '60s Spider-Man theme, which is always a
Oh
classic.
yeah,
I
you can't
love
beat
that
that one. It's
theme.
so fun.
But then but then the actual rap beats that they throw in there,
It's
it
really
works.
good. It's really
Yeah,
catchy.
it's like I was like I'm listening to this like, dude, I'm actually into this. Holy hell. I should be kind of mad that they only use samples of the actual theme song, but no, it works.
No, it's really good. They
It-
play into that really well.
Hmm. So yeah, but we talked about all of this. We didn't really talk about Spider-Man himself, but I don't think there's much to say. I really like him still. He's he's Spider-Man.
They did the
What do I?
quips. They had some really good fight animation for it. For the most part, nothing
Mhm.
felt too off. I
Yeah.
I
There
hope
are there were
second
some
season
fight
they
scenes where there were some fight scenes where I felt the frame rate was a bit weird, but
same. It might also be like first season. Maybe they didn't have as big a budget, so they kept it for other
maybe
things and didn't do as much into the fights until like I think some of the final fights is where you really got some a little bit more bombastic stuff, especially with Scorpion, right? So it'll be interesting to
yeah.
see if they do more in the second season because like all right, this is popular now, let's do more with this now, let's put a bit more into this now. Hopefully that's the case, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you, like some of it was a little wonky or just that was kind of wasn't as good, but it was never anything that to me stood out as wow, that's really really bad, like as an example like first season Dragon Prince, right?
Yeah. No, there's and I still think like the some of the framing they have when the comic book looks really good for this show, and they do some cool stuff with it. I really enjoyed the art style, and for Spider-Man himself, I think that's it's not that I have a lot to say about him because the thing is that he's just Spider-Man. You know
Yeah.
why I love him. You know why he's great in this show. I think in this there is a very there is some sort of a thing where you can tell that Peter and Spider-Man are different.
Hmm.
That in real life he's a lot more awkward, but once he puts on the mask, he's a lot cleaner. He's a lot more smooth. The quips are getting a bit better. I think this is really the first time in a while where we actually saw a difference between Peter
Well,
and Spider-Man.
I did also like how until he got that final suit design, you did still see, and even then, right, you did still see a little bit of that Peter like clumsiness and kind of awkwardness, even kind of go into Spider-Man as well. Like when you first see him swinging in the kind of like his first costume, right, that like hobbled together
Mhm.
one, you can see that he still doesn't have quite have the hang of it and everything, right, and he makes a few mistakes, and he's kind of like still a little bit clumsy and everything, right. I enjoyed that. It was fun because that is still somewhat him, and he's still getting used to stuff. And then as he's getting the newer suits and we're going through the suit marathon, we'll call it, again you still
Yeah.
see more of that clumsiness and trying to get used to stuff until you get to like the final suit design, the iconic suit design, and it seems like all right, he's a lot less clumsy, he's getting there, he's learning a lot more, he's figuring it out more.
Yeah. And but again, he's done well. That's really all I can say about him.
Hmm.
And I already gave good comments to the voice actor that did great in this role. And I'm trying to think if there was anything else to comment on. If did we go over everything? Oh, you know what? We haven't talked about Nico much, and I will say
He's fun.
the one episode that at first, okay, I kind of like that Peter has a different kind of best friend that's like a bit more cynical, a bit more moody, a bit and I like that they kind of build the tension between them, that when it's accidentally revealed that Peter is Spider-Man, she's mad at him not just because of, oh, you didn't tell me. There is a bit of like building up to it because Peter did ditch her sometimes when he was busy doing Spider-Man stuff.
Hmm.
He did kind of he did kind of bring Harry into their group without asking. There are things there that, something. If I were a friend of that guy, I would be a bit upset with him about that as well. But I also like that they gave it the time and they handled that naturally, I feel. And the one thing that I do enjoy is that Harry is the one that actually reaches out to her with this, and by the end of that episode, you can actually tell that they became legit good friends.
Hmm.
I like that episode where it's Nico and Harry just doing their thing.
Yeah.
And she finds out that because when she meets him, she thinks, oh, he's just a rich influencer guy from social media. eh, Not my thing. But then she actually gets to know him outside of that, and they start hitting it off. I actually enjoy that.
Yeah.
I think I like Nico. What they're gonna do with her is up to debate because because I now know about her comic persona, and we see that she's doing a bit of witchcraft near the end. So what they're gonna do with her, we shall see.
We shall see. Yeah, she definitely has some powers, it seems, and maybe will become more of a thing later on. Maybe her own little
Mhm.
sidekick superhero deal. We'll see. But I'm here
Yeah.
for it. I think it'd be fun. It'd be interesting to
Um,
see.
I, we did forget to mention Doc Ock, or just Otto. Yeah, obviously he's gonna become Doc Ock later, but we see the hints.
Hmm.
So I love his design in this. It looks like this is like Doc
This is
Ock
like
from the
his
comics.
iconic design, like comic
Yeah,
design,
that.
right? Yeah.
hmm I also like the voice actor Hugh Dancy does great.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, but the scene where they come to arrest him and he's just starting to dance around while the arms take them all down. This is one of the best I'm just going to dance scenes in anything. This was such a good scene.
It was definitely fun. Yeah.
Mhm. And also he thinks he's so cool and stuff, and then when he's actually out, nope, they still get him. Which I think this is my favorite part because it's not that it's not even the villain is clearly won, so he has nothing to worry about. No, he gets his ass arrested by that scene. He's done. So that was a nice twist on it. I'm interested in seeing what they'll do with Otto in the future too. Speaking of, should we just get into what we think about the future of the show? Because I think we covered everything.
Yeah. Like again, I am very interested to see where they go with this. I definitely have this feeling, right? And maybe you might agree, maybe you might disagree, that we're definitely going to do more of a team up thing at some point with Daredevil, right, and Spider Man, and you're going to see more of Daredevil. Because I
Yeah.
will point out, from what I understand, we definitely have some Daredevil like stuff going on in this comic too, like with say Big Donovan, right? Because that's a Daredevil and I believe Iron Fist villain.
Well, that's the thing, though. They won't bring Charlie Cox in here if they didn't have big plans for him,
Yeah,
right?
true, true. So
I'm
that
not.
is fair.
I don't think he will be like a regular, like that. He'll be in
Well,
every episode,
I feel
but
like
they won't. They won't bring him up for nothing.
maybe it's
That's
just
my
me, but I feel like they might do a thing of like Daredevil training Spider-Man a little bit to know how to fight better,
maybe.
and
Maybe.
like especially after a point where they will learn that, oh, Osborn is like an absolute monster sort of deal, like the usual, right? Because it's gonna come out eventually, right? That Osborn's doing some really really shady shit and awful shit, right? Eventually, at some
Yeah.
point.
And they do hint that because you just need to look at actually. And just to talk about it, I really like the way the show ends with Spider-Man just swinging to the city. It looks so good at night, like
Mhm.
where that he's just swinging around there, and there's the kid on the train that says, "Hey, it's Spider-Man," and he waves at him, and he actually goes, "Even I think I think I can handle that, and if I don't, I'll figure something out. After all, I'm Spider-Man." And one, that's such a Spider-Man thing to say, right? It doesn't matter
Mhm.
what gets thrown on him. He always finds a way to take care of it. But I also think that they are hinting that there are things coming that he may not be ready for, and by the end of the show, he's still working for Norman. At the end of the day, he's
Well,
still.
doesn't no, he isn't working for Norman. He's working for Harry now. We're starting a new
Oh,
company.
right, right. They do that. Yeah, that's a thing. But what I mean though is that he still kind of sees probably Norman in some sort of like a positive light because he
Yeah,
did mentor him.
yeah.
He did introduce him to Harry. Like Norman essentially kickstarted the whole thing. So you'll probably see like, okay, if you're against Norman, you're probably against me, and this is the point where maybe things are gonna change, and
Mhm.
they're also and you know they're also hinting at i I'm just gonna say it. The one thing I found the most interesting is the scene where May goes to prison and she's talking to, and we find out that Richard Parker, Peter's dad, is still
Still
alive
alive.
and is in prison. That twist is legit, like the one that I said, no way.
Well, if I'm
What?
not mistaken, right? His parents are supposed to be like, or at least in some portrayals, his parents are
In
like
most portrayal,
spies and stuff like that.
mo- it's something like that. They get the one thing that I think in most versions are they are kind of spies or they are doing something shady. But the one thing we know about them is that they died in a plane crash, and Peter grew up with Uncle Ben and Aunt May. That's the main
Mm.
thing. So now here's the thing. One, I will say, Josh Keaton voices Peter's dad, and Josh Keaton is essentially every character in Spider-Man by this point. He was
He's
like
been a lot, from what I understand.
in Spectacular Spider-Man, in a lot of video games, and in the Invincible cameo, he's Spider-Man himself.
I mean, he's
In
been a
some
lot of
video,
different heroes as well, for that matter.
but also in some versions, he's Harry Osborn. In the previous Disney cartoon, he was Norman Osborn. In the Insomnia games, he's Electro. Now he's Richard Parker. The guy is like fuck being Spider-Man, and Josh Keaton is everything Spider-Man. I can't wait for the day where he'll voice MJ.
Oh, yeah. Looking at like some of the stuff on his wiki, he's been Norman. He's been like John Jameson.
All right, he was Jameson too. Fucking hell,
Been
the guy was everything.
been
I
the
tell.
Steel Spider. Like he has been a lot, but also
Yeah.
just in general, he is the superhero guy, huh?
Mm.
Because he's been Steve
Well,
Rogers, he's
again,
been Hal Jordan, he's been like all of the Flashes at this point.
yeah. So basically, and basically, the guy has an impressive resume. And I say this
Hmm.
for the record. I love Josh Keaton. He's one of my favorite Spider-Mans, actually.
He's a
But
great
I'm
VA.
also saying, but I'm also saying, like, because of course we need Josh Keaton to be something in this show because he's something in every Spider-Man incarnation known to man at this point. So why not?
Fair.
That being said, though, so I am interested in that plot point because something tells me
We should point
I am
out,
not sure.
because I think it's
mm,
funny. I don't know if you know this. I'm sure
mm,
you do. He was Agent Spider and Invincible as well. In
I mentioned that
Yeah, I know you did.
literally.
Oh, you did. I
I
didn't know if
mentioned
you
that both.
mentioned it now.
I mentioned it now, and I mentioned it when we covered that. I
Yeah,
know that. Trust me, because I was screaming when that happened. I
but
will. I.
it's
mm,
it's just funny though. Like he's just always Spider Man. I just love it. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, no, he's in like he's entangled in this franchise forever. In
I thought you were
like I
gonna
said,
say web, and I was gonna go boo.
no, no, I was
But you did
considering
say
that, but then
entangled, so still boo.
yeah, well, but then again, am I wrong?
No.
There
But yeah,
you
it's
go.
great to have him here, and yeah, as you're saying, I'm definitely curious what they're gonna do with Richard Parker.
Because here's my theory. I am not sure about this. I could be wrong. We'll need to wait. But something tells me he is responsible or involved with how Uncle Ben died.
Mm, possibly.
Because why would May go visit him? Maybe she knows something.
True.
That's just again, this is just a theory for me though. I'm not sure what the relationship between these two are. I'm not saying that May was in the know about Ben being murdered. I'm not saying that Richard did it or even knew, but considering she's hiding it from Peter, I have a feeling maybe Richard did something else that's shady. Who knows? But I have a feeling there's a connection to Uncle Ben somehow. What I can't tell you, but this is my long shot. This is my long shot prediction for the future.
Hmm. Fair enough.
Well, so we're talking about that. What do you think? Do you have a theory?
I mean, like I said, right? I do think you're gonna get, the big Spider-Man Daredevil team up at some point. Maybe
Mhm.
you'll see Spider-Man getting trained somewhat by Daredevil and how to fight better, potentially, especially
Yeah.
after we see the Osborn, switch at some point,
Hmm.
because it's
Yeah.
gotta happen.
Obviously, at some point, Norman is gonna become the Green Goblin. That's just a given. You won't have him
Unless
here
they
if
throw us a
not.
curveball and someone else becomes Green Goblin somehow.
Yeah.
Richard Parker
Ima-
becomes Green Goblin.
Oh my
There's your
God.
thing. There's your
But that's actually something that I do wonder about. We know that we're getting Gwen, but and from what I've seen, I'm not sure if it's a fan art or not, but apparently we might actually get to see her as Spider Gwen already, not
Hmm,
just a regular Gwen. So
that'll be fun.
interesting. But and also we see the symbiote being left behind, the bit of symbiote left behind. I Since we don't have Eddie Brock yet, I'm wondering if they're gonna do the Insomniac thing and have Harry be Venom again.
You think they'll do it again? I mean, I guess the games are separate enough from the show they could, and it would be fine.
Let's say that what I'm saying at this point is that there is a version of Venom out there where the symbiote takes Harry Osborn and not Eddie Brock.
Mm.
So I am just wondering, since we don't have Eddie Brock yet, maybe they can introduce Eddie Brock without a doubt. I'm just thinking out loud here
I mean, we
because they won't.
know Norman has the symbiote currently, so he's definitely going to be experimenting with that.
It's well, we don't know if it's somewhere in the. It's somewhere in the. We see him we see it being left in like the the
Well,
Oscorp
we know
lab.
Norman's the one who finds it at the very end.
Yeah, no, Norman does find it. Right, right. You're correct. What they're gonna so we'll see what's going to happen with that because obviously they're going to study it and everything. And again, maybe that will be a way for them to introduce Eddie in the future. Well,
True.
if Tom Hardy voices him, I swear.
That'd be funny. I would respect it. I would love that. That'd be funny.
Yeah, but we'll see. And obviously, something tells me I don't know. But you know how among all the people there who are part of the internship, there's like this one asshole professor. I suppose there's this one asshole old dick.
Mm.
It's not
Whitman, I believe his name is.
I forgot his name. Oh
Whitman.
god damn it!
It's Whitman.
It's not Adrian Toomes. It's not Adrian
Oh,
Toomes.
okay. Yeah, no.
But what if he's the Vulture?
Maybe.
There's something about him that I just look at and it's like Vulture. There's something about the design that kind of that gave me the
I mean,
feeling.
we never
But
mentioned it. Connors is in. Dr. Connors is in this too.
yeah, well, as gender bent
I
Dr.
mean,
Connell, but
nothing
yes,
wrong with that either. Perfectly fine with
yeah.
that too. But yeah,
Again,
we do have.
there's not like we said at the beginning. It's not really a thing, but yeah, Connors is in this to some
It
degree,
definitely
and
seems like we're gonna have Oscorp be like the go-to of all the villains, right?
which honestly is kind of a thing because Oscorp does do all of these science experiments. So obviously there are some corrupt people there when Norman Osborn is running the place.
True.
So
So
But
yeah, like
if
I could
anything, they
definitely
they kind of build
see.
up it. Though they kind of build up that most of the villains that Spidey fights are actually connected to Otto more so than Oscorp.
Well, in this one, I think. Well, so far, yeah, it's been connected to Auto, but I think we're gonna see. I think if we do see like them continue to experiment with the different spider stuff and everything else, right? I think it's
Hmm.
possible we'll see like more of the villains start coming from Oscorp, right? Like you said, Whitman could be our new Vulture and everything, right?
Hmm. It's possible. We shall see.
So I think that'll be interesting. I think I feel like they're gonna do something with that one intern. I believe his name is Amadeus, or Cho, I believe his name is the
Yeah,
one who's like kind of
Cho,
a
the asshole one.
the asshole one. I feel like they're gonna do something with him. He might end up being a villain. Maybe he's like temporarily Venom at some point, right?
Hmm. Because again, in terms of people who I know will Venom at some point, there's Eddie Brock, Harry Osborn, and Flash Thompson. If
Mm.
anybody else took on it, I don't know.
It'd be interesting. Like, there's a lot of stuff they could do here. I'm curious to see what they do, and
Hmm.
I hope they manage to surprise me right with stuff that's like, oh, okay, interesting. That's neat. Like the Richard Parker one. Like that's neat. That's interesting. Definitely, as
Agreed,
far as I'm
agreed.
aware, I don't think there's been a show that's done much with Peter's parents
Yeah.
before, especially
If
them being
anything, the
alive, even
one,
if it's just one of
the
them.
one thing, the one thing that they tried to do something with this with the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and there was a deleted scene from Amazing Spider-Man 2 where we would have found out that Richard Parker is alive, but that was cut.
Mm,
So officially, this is the first time where we see that one of Peter's parents is still alive and around.
interesting.
Mhm. If anything, I remember seeing that deleted scene on the Blu-ray, and I'm like, this is so stupid, but the acting is so good in this scene. So I'm kind of happy they cut it, but I'm also like, why? By the way, Richard Parker in that scene is the one who tells Peter, with great power comes great responsibility. Because Uncle
Mm,
Ben says that in a really complicated way in the first one.
yeah, that probably wouldn't be a good thing.
Mm.
Maybe would.
Oh, well,
Yeah, you'd have
either
to really
way,
plan with that one. But yeah, I'm curious to see what they do here. This will be
mhm.
fun.
I'm very curious. I'm interested. Like the show, you got me interested. You said they have so far they are good to go for 3 seasons. I am not sure. I'm not sure if they have a plan for more than that, but 2 more seasons is enough time to give us more to
Hmm.
look forward to and to
Yeah,
set up more things. So you know what? I'm interested.
yeah,
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Show me what you got. I'm excited for the future.
agreed.
Anything else to say before we wrap this up?
Go watch the show if you haven't
You
already.
keep saying that after we are in the spoiler section. There's like people have already seen it. I want to hope.
I mean, maybe they haven't. Maybe there's that one person here who listened through the entire thing and hasn't seen the show, and they were, using this as they're like, maybe I will, maybe I won't. And well, now I'm telling you, go watch it, person. And they're like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll go watch it now.
Hmm.
Have they been
After
spoiled?
we,
Yeah, sure, but they'll
I,
be okay. Maybe they
I
enjoy
mean,
spoilers. Maybe they're okay with that. You never know.
I'm not gonna judge, I suppose. So with that being said, that's it for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed it. What did you think about your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? Where would you rank it among your favorite Spider-Man shows? And what are you excited about for season 2? And what are your theories about the stuff that's been built up? You can tell us all about it in the comment section below on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C, and on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team. So until next time, I was HC.
I was Wolf.
And we will see you all next time. Take care.
Bye bye.